I don't think democracy survives this technology in its current form. It will either improve or it will end.
In a recent interview, Emad Mostaque, the former CEO of Stability AI, discussed why decentralization is crucial when it comes to the further development of AI and AGI, and he talks about his vision. According to him, humanity is at a pivotal point where democracy will either improve and represent us better, or it will end completely and we'll fall into a totalitarian oppressive system. So let's jump into the interview and look at his decentralized vision. Let's start with the issue he sees when it comes to centralized AI development. And the first thing he talks about is OpenAI and the whole Sam Altman drama, which according to him proves that there is no proper governance structure. Listen to this.
So if you look at the OpenAI CEO board thing, Sam Altman said the board can fire me anytime. This is the governance of OpenAI. And then they fired him, and then he is back on, and he appoints himself back on the board. There's clearly no governance at OpenAI.
And on this channel, I've also talked about how OpenAI lost all trustworthiness before. But of course, it's not just them. Emad also talks about all of Silicon Valley. And here you can really hear how he wants to use AI for good, for the benefit of all of humanity. Really for all, and not just a few certain people. Listen to this.
Too few people, I think, with the right alignment and approach in this area. I've been very disappointed. Usually what happens is you have power maximization equations, and this is what we're seeing from the industry consolidation. How many people want to genuinely bring this technology to kids in Nigeria or to the global south, or to help those leaders build their own models, and believe also in a positive sum game? That was actually my biggest surprise from the discussion in Silicon Valley. Almost entirely, they all believe in flat or negative sum, zero sum or negative sum things where there has to be a winner. Everyone's a winner in this.
Everyone wins. And this is so true. If we really develop AI the right way, every single one of us wins. The issue is just that people are so greedy and in such a scarcity mindset that they can just see to collect more and more resources for themselves, and they cannot see that actually everyone could be a winner here. This is one of the biggest dangers of centralized AI development, which Emad also discusses in this next brief clip. Here he talks about how the further development of AI will either help us to improve democracy and represent all of us in a better way, or it will end democracy completely. And we already see the polarization of parties, not just in America, but in almost every Western nation, more and more, and it really gets more and more extreme. It seems like a huge us versus them mentality and atmosphere gets fostered, and all of this will not lead to anything good. But let's listen to Emad.
I don't think democracy survives this technology in its current form. It will either improve or it will end. I don't see anything else. Yesterday,
what does end mean here? A benign dictatorship, driven by an AI overlord?
Yeah, yesterday there was an announcement of an app called Hume, which had emotionally intelligent speech, and it can understand your emotions and talk with emotion. You and I have to discuss this.
Yes,
you know where that's going, right?
It's very powerful.
Speech. It's incredibly powerful, and governments have a tendency. I mean, the official government
say it here. It's important for you to state what it means, because we've discussed it, but help people here be ready for this.
Democracy is all about representation, and you see the questions of deepfakes and things. Speech is one of the most impactful elements there, but now you can't believe anything you see, hear, everything. So one path that we have is a 1984 on steroids, panoptica, where life is gamified and you listen to whatever the government says and they're incredibly convincing and you're happy. And you've always been happy and you've always been at war with Eurasia, propaganda on steroids. The other part that you have is things like citizen assemblies, consultative democracy, the ability to take, right now you can take any of the bills in Congress and completely deconstruct them and find what the motivations are. You can check laws against the Constitution in seconds. This is an incredibly powerful, empowering technology from a democratic perspective. So I see two routes. unfortunately, because I think that once the right thing goes, it goes really fast. Centralized government control increasing because the governments want to protect themselves as an organization. And, every party says the other party is crap. We've seen the increasing polarization in America already. We can have a better democracy where it's actually representative and empowers the people. Or we will have the end of democracy where it is a 1984 panopticon, in my opinion.
I am sure everyone watching this channel can see the dark path that lays in front of us. But we actually have the power to fight this and lead to the improvement of democracy so that it represents all of us in an even better way than ever before. Listen to this.
We need to set some defaults and standards here to protect democracy. But again, why democracy? We're not really trying to protect democracy. Again, people have different definitions of that. What we're trying to protect is individual liberty, freedom, and agency. Education should be about enhancing the education of every child. It's not. Healthcare is sick care. Our government should uplift us, but how many people believe our governments do that rather than put us down?
Which way?
Infinite agency or massive control? These are the two ways. Do we control the technology, or do these organizations control the technology that controls us?
And that's why we need decentralized AI, so that the companies or the government doesn't control a centralized AI that then controls us, but so that we, every single one of us, is in control. But how can that look like? Well, I just want to briefly mention the ASI Alliance here. And if you don't know what that is, I link a video to them at the end of this video. Be sure to check it out. But now let's get into Emad's vision. First of all, he talks about how you can beat centralized AI.
There has to be an alternative, and the alternative has to be distributed intelligence. When I resigned, I said you can't beat centralized intelligence with centralized intelligence. You're not going to beat it with a stability. Stability is a great organization. It's going to do well. The only way that you can beat it to create the standard that represents humanity is decentralized intelligence. It's collective intelligence.
Stability AI, of course, being open source, but that's not enough. Like Emad says, you can only beat it with decentralized intelligence. And yes, open source and decentralization are not the same. Emad also talks about that as well and breaks down a few very important properties of decentralized AI in this next brief clip here.
I said I'm going to move to do my part in decentralizing AI. People are like, isn't that just open source? You give the technology, right? And then anyone can use it. But it isn't. I think decentralizing AI has a few important components. One is availability and accessibility. Everyone should be able to access this technology, the fruits of labor, and there's some very interesting political and other elements around that. Number two is the governance of this technology. Do you have centralized governance? Because the models are the data. There's a recent Databricks model where they show that you have massive improvements from data. We all know that. Who governs the data that teaches your child or manages your health or runs your government? That's an important question I think too few are asking, and we need data transparency and other things like that. So accessibility, you've got the governance aspect of that. And then finally, you have, how does it all come together? Is it a single package, or is it a modularized infrastructure that people can build on and is available kind of everywhere? Does it require monoliths and central servers where if it goes down and you have an outage on GPT-4, you're a bit messed up, or someone can attack and co-opt it? I think that those are kind of the key elements that I was looking at when I was talking about decentralizing AI. And, I've come up with an infrastructure to do that, I hope, as well.
And while he has come up with an infrastructure, another great thing, which is basically at the heart of decentralization, is his understanding of power and control. Listen to this.
I should not have any power on this. Whereas again, you see everyone else trying to get more and more power. I want to make sure it's set up properly, but I want to give it all away because power is obligation, it's dragging, and again, it should not be invested in any one individual. We shouldn't have to rely on anyone being nice or good.
No one should be in control. Or better said, everyone should be in control of it. But now let's see what he imagines for the future. And I think it's a very ambitious but amazing vision.
The basic thing is this. What I want to do is set up an AI champion in every nation with the brightest people of each nation, working with the organizations of each nation to help guide them through this next period. because there will be massive job displacement from the graduates going, massive uplifts in productivity from the technology being implemented. And again, that organization can help govern and create these data sets and these models that are so important. And every nation should have that. But then I also believe that every sector should have a generative AI first infrastructure company that builds this and helps the healthcare companies, finance companies, and others through that. And to coordinate all of that, you need to have a Web3 type protocol.
And he defines what Web3 type protocol means for him in this context. But first of all, let's have a look at his vision on the whiteboard. So if you imagine the world, yes, this is the world, what he wants is that every country has their own AI model, so that the AI models are also culturally relevant and basically specialized for every country, so to speak. But not just every country, but also every sector. So every science sector, for example, or finance sector also should have their own AI model. And these AI models are trained and fostered by the brightest minds of the country or the sector. And then there's also an overarching, well, let me make that in blue if we can see that, a world overarching AI model that basically has the knowledge of the world. And all of these AI models are also in communication with one another, right? So that they can learn from one another. And in my opinion, this sounds like one of the best visions for decentralized AI that you can come up with. To be clear, the communication part is what I interpret and what I would love to see, and what, for example, BitTensor tries to foster. So I kind of edit it, but I would love to see it, and I believe this makes the most sense. But now let's dive a bit deeper when it comes to the technicalities.
It's not about the tokens or the meme coins or anything like that. What a Web3 protocol is that everyone should have, like, AIs, first of all, aren't going to have bank accounts. They're going to need some way to pay each other or exchange value. And again, Web3 has done a lot of work in that. There needs to be some sort of identity, attribution, and other format, because you'll have this mass influx of information. And so again, Web3 concepts are very useful there. There needs to be an identity concept because you'll have real and digital people. Web3 concepts are very useful there. So data attestation, all these other things, verifiability. So when I look at it, if you've got sectorally, my plan is to launch almost a company for every major sector. And we can talk about health and education and bring the smartest people in the world to solve that challenge of the infrastructure for the future, every nation. But you need to have some sort of coordinating protocol for all of that becomes a standard. And that's the substrate for this amplified human collective intelligence.
And that also sounds very good to me. Web3 and crypto are not about the tokens. They are cool and to some degree necessary to incentivize validators. But what Web3 and crypto really is about is decentralization. And having models across the entire world for every country and an overarching global model sounds like an amazing approach to me. He talks a bit more in depth about it right here.
Training these graduates that can go out and customize to each country, but they must reflect the culture of that country. Like the Japanese stable diffusion model we had, if you typed in salaryman, it gave you a very sad person versus the base model giving you a very happy person, right? So you must have graduates that reflect the local culture and then reflect the local knowledge. And then global models, again, that reflect our global knowledge and can be accessed by anyone.
Aside from this rough vision, unfortunately, there's not a lot more tangible information at this point, but it all seems to come together under the name Shelling AI, which at least already has an X account right here. But one decentralized AI approach that has a well worked out vision and starts to pick up pace as more and more things come together is the ASI Alliance, which also shares a vision of democratizing access and being beneficial for all of humanity. And in my opinion, the more people share this vision and work on this, the greater the chances that we can actually achieve this. If you want to check out what the ASI Alliance is, their approach and how they go about it, check out the video right over here. And this seems to become a running gag by now, but I forgot again to write it out, so yeah, don't forget to like.